I'll get things started just by number one, welcoming everybody here today to another Forge Fireside. Forge, of course, is finding opportunities and resources to grow entrepreneurs. We are the entrepreneurial mindset unit of the university. We focus on cultivating that mindset in all students, supporting the ecosystems wherever the university operates, and of course, advancing the most promising startups to scale, launch, and who knows, maybe even an exit. We might hear about one today. This is a monthly series. We try to meet with founders and investors and hear their stories, partly because I think often people think that the path to success or the path to whatever is a straight line. And I think when you hear from people, you discover that it's anything but a straight line. So my guest today is Cam Norwood, the co-founder of PackDash, and we'll dive into what PackDash does in a little bit. But I always like to kind of get a starting point of how this began, or how not so much how PackDash began, but kind of your origin story. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience, your educational experience? You went to the University of Arizona. What'd you study? What'd you do? I understand that you tried to graduate and you didn't get to graduate quite as quickly. You had to stick around a bit longer.
I did. So Tucson native. I wasn't born in Tucson, but I consider myself a Tucson, and I arrived in 1999. I went to middle school, high school, and then on to U of A. And I was track manager at U of A. So I did high jump and triple jump, long jump in high school. I was going for a walk-on scholarship, and I was super close to getting one. And right before they issued one to me, they passed I think it was Title IX at the time in 2006. And so they called me and said, hey, any potential scholarship is going to go over to the ladies' side. And I was like, oh no. So I had to figure out how I was going to pay for school, how I was going to get through college. It was 3 weeks before I was supposed to move into Arizona, Sonora, my dorm assignment. And it was probably 3 weeks before I was supposed to make my first payment to the University of Arizona. And I went into the track team office and talked to Harvey and Francesca. And I was like, hey guys, what do you have for me? And they gave me a manager job, which that was why I ended up staying an extra year, was because there were no managers lined up my senior year. And I had done it for 4 years, and it was an amazing experience. And they were like, hey, we don't have anybody lined up. Would you mind staying another year? And I had, I think, 3 credits in a statistics class I was going to take over the summer and then graduate. And I didn't have anything lined up. It was kind of a tumultuous time in the job search for my friends who were graduating. So I said, hey, let me do another year and take some fun electives and really have a good time with the track team, and then see my way out. And so then I graduated in 2011. And I graduated with a regional development, sustainability, and business minor. And I was really interested in sustainability, city planning, really what makes a city great, which is one of the reasons I chose to move to Chicago, along with following the love of my life. But Chicago was a really cool urban developed city that had city-centric centers and industrial areas. And for what I majored in, it was a really cool place that I had found a master's program that I was thinking about taking. Then I had a bunch of friends that were making a lot of money, and I decided to not go the major route, and I went the how am I going to make a ton of money route. And I became a recruiter, worked my way up that way, and had a career in recruiting and sales after I graduated in Chicago.
So you didn't go straight out and become a founder. You actually went and worked in the corporate world, I assume?
I did. I wore a suit every day. I rode the train to downtown Chicago. I started at grunt level, making, I think it was $31,000, just enough to barely pay my rent and pay for dinners and lunches. And then I kind of worked my way up the grind and got promoted from a grunt level recruiter to a professional recruiter to a lead recruiter to manager of recruiters to then running my own division with actually over 100 people reporting to me across the country, building out NPS improvement from our contractor force of 40,000 that were around the country, working on Fortune 1000 client sites. So I had a pretty cool role, and I kind of built that out. And that was when I was 28, 29. I had promised myself when I was 30, I would make an entrepreneurial leap of faith jump into something. I was afraid if I didn't do it by 30, I would kind of get a little bit older and maybe not make that jump, or, be deterred to have riskiness like that in my life. I'd just gotten married a few years earlier, started having kids, and, things were shifting for me in terms of importance of, do I really care about making X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars per year if I don't get to see my family, if I'm traveling around the country? Those types of factors were really playing in. And I think I had been a little bit frustrated in my corporate career, explaining to my management this role needed to be created for 2 to 3 years. Took them 2 years to create it for me. I was in it for a whole year. We made some amazing things happen. And I turned 30. Dave and I sat down, had some really awesome Thanksgiving and Christmas conversations. We're actually related. We're brother-in-laws. So we're family. And the beginning of the entrepreneurial journey, through, we've had a million ideas, but I think Dave and I really had honed in on something with 2018, the hemp industrial revolution, the hemp bill being signed into law. And we kind of saw this brink. Being in Chicago, being close to Kentucky, our first business was a CBD-based business, a hemp-based business. And at that time, I didn't really know what I wanted to jump into, but this sounded like a really great opportunity. And I believe in cannabis. I think it has some really amazing effects for people, and I thought it would be a really cool business opportunity. So our first jump was to start commercializing the purchase of cannabis, hemp in Kentucky with a group of farmers, and then trying to find the back end of that, whether it was selling it to processors or industrial creators or whoever it may be. And Dave and I would get in my truck on a Friday afternoon and just drive down to Kentucky. Dave would go on hemp forums and find farmers, and we'd find Saturday morning coffee meetings that we could meet up with in Lexington, Kentucky. And we would meet up with these farmers. They would take us to their farms. We would have these conversations with them about what laws were legal, what they're doing, what they're growing, how, what the future of this industry could be. And, over time we developed kind of our foot in the door, and we decided to not really do the farming aspect any longer, not really do the processing aspect any longer, but really we thought we could succeed building a brand. And so our first big entrepreneurial jump was Half Day CBD. We built a brand. It was 2019. We had our website launch. I think December 2018 is when the law was passed. We had been preparing for it. And January 1st of 2019, I believe we launched our website, and we started selling online. And, we didn't really know what we were going to do. This was a total side hustle. It was a weekend thing. And then, as we developed our product line, our ideas, our branding, nurture streams with email, Dave and I started going to online e-commerce courses and, doing anything we could to just like sharpen our knives in this e-commerce world, while we were still working full-time jobs and trying to find kind of that point of, are we ready to make that jump? What point will we make that jump? How much money do we need to bring in every month, every week, every day to feel like this is something serious where, we can quit our full-time jobs with benefits and, all kinds of stuff going on, stock options and all this stuff. And we also are raising families and have kids and wives and things like that. So I think that was a point where Dave and I were trying to just blow up this business and make money. We started doing Chicago festivals. We started renting out 10 by 10 tents and going out and hiring teams of people to help us sell tinctures and salves and all these different CBD products. And we started training people during on the evenings during the week so that they would go out and sell on the weekends with us. And this evolved into Dave being at one festival one weekend, me being at another festival another weekend. Then we were running 4 teams across Chicago, and we had team leads that were acting as Dave and I on site. And, I think at one point we were making 30 to 40 grand a weekend out of these tents in Chicago. And during the summer, when you have like every weekend, there's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 100,000, 200,000 attendee festival blocking off 10 city blocks with concerts. And we're right in the middle, smiling, educating people on CBD, telling them not to buy anything unless they walk around and have a great experience with a sample that we give them. And I mean, it was magical. And then COVID hit. So we were gearing up, Dave and I were gearing up for the next year of events, right? We were going from just Chicago and doing multiple events at once and having street teams to doing the closest 5 states in the Midwest. We were going to have a event management company help us train people all over the country and do this and that and really blow this out. And we were going for $3 million in revenue, like our next year. And this is right when COVID hit. We had put down a deposit for like Lollapalooza. We were going to be the exclusive brand at Lollapalooza. We were backstage. I mean, it was really exciting where we were getting the business. And then COVID hit. And we went from our number one outdoor event in your face selling, making this money on the weekends to not even being able to really go outside and stocking up on toilet paper and masks. So Dave and I naturally were like, what's next here? We had a really good run, but how are we going to pivot this business? And the pivot was turning our events-based business into an e-commerce-based business. So we did that over the next couple months. We buckled down on our laptops and really just tried to learn how to win on the internet. And we were able to do that. We were able to get our Shopify store. It was doing 100 grand a month in no time, it seemed like, and in like maybe a 60-day period where we were doing a couple grand a month online, and really all of our revenue was event-based business, to flipping that to doing all of that business online. And it was really cool to see. We had email nurture streams. We hired an agency. We were doing Instagram swipe up stuff. I mean, it was really magical what we achieved, and we were really excited about it. And at this point, when we were graduating from 1,000 orders a month, 2,000 orders a month, 3,000 orders a month, 4,000 orders a month, we were a real e-commerce brand. We were a real e-commerce business. We had broken that, $1 million in a year revenue kind of run rate. And Dave and I were at that point where we were diving in. David already quit his job. I quit my job, I believe, October of the following year. We would go to my office in my house every morning and just have our coffee and start just grinding on the computers. And really what we noticed through this exercise of turning from an events-based business to e-commerce-based business was our biggest struggle was getting our packages to our customers in a timely manner, cost effectiveness, quickly and without any sort of customer service issue, high accuracy. And we were at a company called ShipBob, which was our fulfillment center at the time. Fulfillment center, if you order something online, comes to your house. A lot of times the brand gives all of their inventory. Most of the time, the brands will give all of their inventory to a 3PL or a fulfillment center. They hold all of that inventory. And as the order is coming off your Shopify site or whatever website you're selling, the fulfillment center sees those orders, packs, and ships those out to all your customers. Just a little crash course on 3PL.
3PL, third-party logistics, by the way.
So we were with a big 3PL called ShipBob, and when we had all this growth and all this big winning online, Dave and I really quickly noticed that we were spending 70 and 80% of our time following our packages, managing where the packages were, managing the inventory that was in the warehouse, getting new inventory to the warehouse in a timely manner to make sure we would not run out, running a sale and making sure we were fully stocked, all of these things that are really in the fulfillment realm was what we were spending most of our time trying to manage. And so it was a great experience at first. When COVID got a little bit worse midsummer and even into the fall, we noticed that our service level dropped significantly with our 3PL partner.
Mm.
We went from, 24-hour SLAs, 48-hour to 48-hour to 72-hour to 1 week to 2 weeks. We had at one point, I remember it was like August, and I think we went from we had packages that were orders that were in their queue that weren't being shipped out for 10 to 12 days. And you could imagine if a customer orders something online, if I order something online, if you order something online, and 12 days later, you get an email that says that your package has been shipped, most people would have requested a refund by that point. It's a terrible e-commerce experience to have something, or I mean, most of the time today, when you order something online, you get an email within the hour that it's been processed, and within the 24 hours or less, sometimes it's 6 hours or less, you get an email saying it's shipped. So I think that's the expectation that we were trying to achieve, get back to, and we just could not get to that point with our 3PL. Every time I called them, it was me saying, I need this SLAs to improve. I need this to go out. What's the problem with this? The truck arrived on Monday. You guys haven't checked this in until Saturday. What's going on? This is paralyzing for me as a business owner, and I'm a small e-commerce brand. They told me until I got to 20,000 shipments per month, they weren't going to focus on me. They weren't going to give me the attention I needed. They weren't going to, give me the SLAs, and they were struggling with PPP prioritization and, all the things going on with COVID to really service the smaller business. And so we let another month or so go by, and Dave and I had this kind of epiphany where we sat down together, and it was actually Dave's idea. Dave's like, hey, what if we started doing our own fulfillment? And I was like, ooh, man, I don't know. A lot of our investors are like, oh, don't do that. It's a bad idea. Or, a lot of people have told us that the whole business in itself, and it truly is. But I think we had really gotten our e-commerce brand to a point where our kitchen was kind of on autopilot. Our brand had been developed. We had a full product line. There wasn't a lot of time that we needed to spend on developing and getting the brand further than it had been at that point. It was mainly just fulfilling and growing from a sales perspective. So Dave and I had a lot of time to really take on something new, especially if it was helpful for our business to get the product to where it needs to go. And so naturally, we thought about it a little bit more, and we decided to start bringing our fulfillment in-house. And there were a lot of things that our fulfillment center wouldn't do for us in general at that point, right? We had CBD flour. We had legal documents, lawyers writing letters, FedEx, UPS support, and ShipBob still didn't feel comfortable selling certain products of our product line. So we had to bring those in-house, and we had an employee that had a ship station, and we had to ship those out ourselves. So we already knew a little bit about fulfillment, and we kind of knew a little bit how it works. But really, we were fully diving in at this point. So it was 4th of July, I think, of 2020. Dave and I had our last straw with ShipBob. We decided to get all of our stuff out of there, and we rented a dry cleaner in North Chicago. I'd driven around that weekend, and I was calling every number on every 1,000 to 2,000 square foot building that I saw, and we found a landlord that was willing to let us in like the next week, and it was $1,000 a month. And we got in there, we ripped everything out. We spent 1 weekend with some of our employees in Home Depot, redoing the floors, ripping all the dry cleaning, hanging stuff out. And we made that place look really beautiful. We went to Menards, which is our Midwest version of Home Depot. And we bought a bunch of racking. We got Dymo printers. I built a bunch of like ship stations, because Uline ship stations are like $1,600. So we went to Home Depot and built our own for $40. And we were in business 4 days after moving out of ShipBob. And we went from spending, I think, $23 to $26 per shipment after all the issues, customer service stuff, missed shipments, reshipments, to, I think we got down to $6, then $5. And I think we got to just over $4 by the second or third month of us shipping ourselves. And so the efficiency was there. We had full control of how our shipments looked. We're a CBD brand. We're doing a lot of influencer campaigns. We're doing a lot of, Dave and I got into Forbes with our CBD brand. We were shipping stuff to newspaper journalists. We were shipping stuff to magazine article writers, you name it. And so we liked to have that full control of our unboxing experience. We like to know that package that was going to War and Barrows at Forbes. It got out that day after we had that conversation, and it has the little crinkly paper in there, and it looks really presentable because I know when he gets that package, he's going to open it, he's going to take a picture. It's all going to matter if the bottle's facing him, and these things really matter. And we had full control of that. Handwritten notes, just anything that you would like to have control of that you're doing in a third party situation. We had regained that control, and it was really exciting to have that again. So this was about September, October. And really we had gotten to that point where Dave and I told the story to other business owners. We told the story to investors, other entrepreneurs and programs and incubators that we were attending. And it every other time we had this conversation about our story, someone would say, wow, I'm at ShipBob having the same experience and I feel paralyzed as well as a business owner. Or, hey, I'm an investor and, I have businesses I've invested in. And, every time I talk to them, they're talking about how fulfillment is their biggest pain in the butt. Or, we had companies that were at ShipBob and they had lost their stuff, or they had, caused a newspaper article to be written badly about them, or, just horror stories that we were hearing over and over and over again. And so we felt like every conversation we were having, we had massive interest for what we were doing. And then we started getting people to ask us, could you do that for us? And that's when Dave and I looked at each other and we're like, okay, maybe there is something here. This seems pretty easy breezy for us. How can we take this to the next level? What would we need to do to turn this into a fulfillment center? So we kind of started researching software, walking flow. We had a friend, David, a buddy that worked at Amazon and helped build Amazon warehouses. We had him come in and, Sam helped us do walking paths and efficiency scale. And, we would put our scan barcoding in a specific way. I mean, all the stuff that you don't know, when you walk into a warehouse, that's all warehouse jargon or warehouse setup type stuff. And so we quickly became warehousemen. And we realized that we were bringing on clients that needed larger doors. We needed docks. We needed, trucks were pulling up on Cicero and Peterson across from the Whole Foods in a basically neighborhood. And we were unloading these trucks in the middle of the street. And I mean, we were at the point where we were unbuilding pallets out of semis and rebuilding them onto pallets inside of our dry cleaner because the door wasn't wide enough for us to get stuff through. So this was maybe 2 months after we had signed this lease for the dry cleaner, and we already needed to expand. So we ended up leasing the salon next door. We knocked the wall down. We expanded into there. So now we had 2,200 square feet. And we had, I think by December of that year, we had 12 clients moved in. We had a beverage client. We had a men's skincare client. We had kids booties and leggings and jammies and stuff like that. We had just a little bit of everything, right? We had our diaper brand that Dave and I would spend our nights going into our warehouse, and we would go on LinkedIn and we would just do 100 blasts or 200 blasts a night and then see what would come of it. And I remember reaching out to this diaper lady, and she set a meeting with us, came into our 1,000 square foot dry cleaner, and she moved out of a 450,000 square foot fulfillment center because she hadn't heard from anybody in 12 days. And meanwhile, Dave and I had messaged her on LinkedIn, set her up for a call the next morning. She flew to come see us because we were so responsive. Wasn't afraid that we were in a 1,000 square foot dry cleaner, but knew that we were leasing a bigger building coming up. And she told us she had 150 pallets that she wanted to send our way. And Dave and I looked at each other and we're like, wow, we're really in the business now.
For those of us who don't necessarily, know what that means, how much physical square footage would you need to store 150 pallets?
It's 6 or 7 semi loads of material. I would say probably close to 10,000 square feet, depending on how it's racked, anywhere from 5 to 10,000 square feet, depending on how it's racked. But that's including a racking system, a forklift, the staff to drive that and move that, docks to get those trucks unloaded. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, but we
And you're
basically were
operating
like,
2,000 square feet at the time that
yes, at the
she
time,
wants to
right? Yeah,
send you 10,000 square feet worth of material.
exactly. And we were like, we got this. I'll get you an address. I'll get you an address. Just tell me when the truck's coming. And little did she know, I spent the next 2 weeks trying to find like a 20,000 square foot warehouse and trying to sign a lease and get us access and keys. And she had a truckload coming my way. And, there were a few days where she's like, what's the address? I need to tell them. And I was like, hang tight. I'm just working out a couple things. I'm going to get it to you. But I finally got an address. But yeah, we were in business, man. We had a 20,000 square foot, I got a sublease with a Serve Pro. They put up a fence for us and like cordoned off 20,000 square feet. We had 2 of our own dock doors. We had 50-foot docks or 53-foot docks for semis. It was great. We had 35-foot ceilings. So we immediately put racking systems in there. Dave and I raised some money, and we got a forklift, racking systems, some more software, some more employees, and this thing was just growing, and I think we looked up, I think it was March or April the next year, we had like 35 clients in there, and that place was almost full in 4 or 5 months. So we were doing it again. And then we ended up partnering with a couple other warehouses for overflow storage. So we had 70 pallets an hour away. We had another partner that had like 100 pallets that was another hour away. So, I mean, it just kept evolving and evolving and evolving. But yeah, we went from e-commerce entrepreneurs to service-based business kind of created out of necessity to support our other business, which, Half Day was PackDash's first client. So it's kind of interesting. That's why we started. And then I think part of our success with PackDash was we were just speaking the entrepreneurial language. I think as an entrepreneur, you're struggling doing any sort of e-commerce fulfillment. The way it begins is always kind of out of your garage, right? That was Dave and I. We would get our first 100 orders, in a week. And it was me and Dave like at night making boxes in my basement, his garage, and then splitting those boxes in our SUVs the next morning, going to the post office or FedEx or whatever. And I think the natural progression of that entrepreneur is, we like to say 400 orders a month is where you can't do it any longer before you need to partner with a third-party logistics company like us. And so we got really good at finding those entrepreneurs who are kind of at that 400 to 1,000 order per month kind of phase of their business where they're growing quickly. They're seeing that success of their online store. They're hearing that Shopify cha-ching on their app every day. And, they're looking at their winnings, and they're getting to that point where they're spending 8 hours a day shipping stuff. And that's when you call PackDash, because that's when we come in and we give you your time back so you can really focus on growing your business again. And that really spoke to entrepreneurs. And that's part of why we had 55 clients in 2 years. And we were saying no to people left and right just because we didn't have the space. We weren't able to hire people fast enough to fulfill. We had a company that wanted it. T Forte was probably our largest client. They do like Ritz-Carlton teas, and they wanted us to take our business so bad, and we just couldn't do it. We did supplemental over the holidays, but we couldn't handle 80,000 orders a month, as a company, let alone one client, so we had to take on kind of these growth stage clients that we'd catch them early, provide a lot of value, and then they would just stick with us all the way up. And the diaper lady was that way. Fast forward to literally a month ago, she ran a Shark Tank on January 6th and had Mark Cuban and Gwyneth Paltrow.
The Shark Tank.
On TV. And all of her diapers are in Dave and I's facilities. And right before Shark Tank, the month out, we're planning that. We were getting truckloads every day of wipes and diapers and boxes and making these kits for Shark Tank. We literally got to the point where we could not handle the next phase of her business. Like, that's how big these clients are exploding. So it was pretty exciting to see. what we were able to build over the last 2.5 years.
So let's hit a pause on that, because we'll come back. There's
Okay.
I think an important story to tell, but I want to back up for a couple reasons. And before I do, just as a reminder, those of you who are attending online, if you have a question, there's a Q&A button in Zoom. Please use a Q&A and post your question there, and we'll get around to them shortly. And if you're attending in person at the hub, please get your question to Erica. She'll put it in as well and relate it on to us. So I was just thinking about kind of the geographies where you've done business, and quite interesting. So, Chicago, Kentucky, Tucson now. This is February's Black History Month. And you're a Black founder, as is Dave. So, from that, how has that experience been, based on, I guess, thinking about it from the point of view that you've probably seen other founders, not Black founders, what they've been able to have access to. What's your experience been? And can you talk a little bit about some of the programs that you've encountered that have been able to really help you, jumpstart or move things forward? And because I want to make sure we give, props to those programs that are out there that have really come in and helped.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've been really grateful, and I've had a lot of exposure to some of the larger, not only incubator programs, but just overall, they're kind of like schools or like mini universities, some of these programs. The Google Black Founder Fund. I met an investor at a Forge event, and then I met him again at a Startup Tucson event. And he was the one who didn't directly invest in our business, but he nominated me for the Black Founder Fund through Google, which I applied and went through the whole application process. And then I was chosen as one of the 50 of cohort 3 of last fall's cohort. So that was a really cool opportunity. $100,000 of non-dilutive funding for our business, along with just unlimited support from therapy. Like, I have a business therapist that I talk to every week from Google, and I got like a year's worth of sessions. Like, I get like 40 sessions with her, and I mean, it's like something that would probably cost me like $20,000. Who knows? Like it's an amazing program. All the way to, like, Dave did the Google sales training. So like we've split up some of the stuff between both of us, but I flew to Atlanta and was part of like Venture Week, and I got honored at the Google Atlanta like startup launch. The mayor of Atlanta was there and like thanked us, and I mean, it was such a cool opportunity to be able to be immersed in that. And I think the other one I was a part of is the Pharrell Black Ambition program, which is the same investor, Tony Wilkins. Shout out to Tony Wilkins. He also told me to apply for the Black Ambition program, which I also was a finalist for that. And we were able to win $25,000 from that, which was a really cool opportunity. There's like 8,000 applicants, and I think I got like top 15 or so. So I got to fly to Norfolk, Virginia, and be part of the pitch competition with Pharrell, and part of their whole like Norfolk Venture Week. Part of this Black Ambition program was really, really cool. We got to see some of the most amazing, not only Black, but just diverse CEOs, executives coming in and speaking, people from FedEx and UPS, all the way to Wall Street, all the way to like Black venture funds of $100-200 million that have just begun, all the way to like just amazing people. I got to hear LeBron's partner speak. I can't remember his name right now. It's starts with an M, like Mac. It's Mac something, but this guy's amazing. If you haven't heard him speak, it's amazing. LeBron's partner that's like helped him be a billionaire. He was on stage just talking about all the stuff that they're building and things that they've done in the community. And it's just such a cool opportunity. I think personally, it's the time to be a diverse founder. I think there's a lot of social issues that have really pushed this ahead. I think COVID, I think, yeah, Mav Carter. Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Derek.
Yeah, Mav Carter, man, listen to this guy talk. It's really, really cool. But yeah, I think it is the time. I remember in 2016, 2017, 2018, I don't know if that was the time. I think it took stuff like George Floyd and people to wake up a little bit and see things are still unequal. Things are still, not an even playing field for everyone. When you dive really deep into that and you look into venture and you look into capital and you look into disbursement of how much diverse founders get, we're not talking about just Black founders. Black founders get like less than 1% of venture money. It's embarrassing. Latino founders, Asian founders, it doesn't matter. I think it is the time, with the awareness that's happened from, Black Lives Matter, Asian crime, people have blown up mosques and things have happened all over the world. I think it's such an awareness to equality. And I think venture has seen that. I think venture has not only seen that, they're acting on it. I think venture's also noticed that when you accelerate, or when you put diverse people on a pedestal in general, they perform. And they perform to a level that if you let them perform, they will perform at a higher level in a lot of cases. And they always have. It doesn't matter who you give the opportunity to. I think, even yesterday I was watching Tiger Woods talk about how he's about to play again. And he's talking about his TGR Foundation. And he's talking about how when he was going up in the ranks, if Arnold hadn't invited him and sponsored him, or, if Jack hadn't sponsored him as a Black golfer, there were literally golf courses that wouldn't let him play. I think
very well known one in Georgia.
Yes. But that whole idea is what is currently evolving out of venture startup world, but still exists so much. I think I've been very, very blessed to just network my face off since I've made it to Tucson. And I still think it's really amazing that of all the places where you could find venture, of all the places you could, be in the startup community, right? You think of San Francisco, Silicon Valley, New York, Chicago, Miami is kind of up and coming, Austin, Tucson is where I found a guy at a small happy hour at Roy Place, who got me all the way to, meeting the mayor at the Google building and getting that badge to go up to the 47th floor and feeling like, I am a founder that's actually making a difference right now. And I'm a founder that is actually being noticed right now. And it's a stage of us. It's not just one. And I've always grown up with, the one Black guy with the group of, I went to County for those, like, you know what I mean? Like that's always how it's been. So it's really cool to be a part of a group where you're feeling empowered for who you are, and you're not just feeling like you're one special person in a group of kind of mixed in, so to speak, if that makes sense. Yeah. But I do think it's the time. I think a lot of venture capital is trying to dedicate, whether you're talking about corporations that are putting money together for diverse founders. Every single corporation is doing that right now. We listen to FedEx saying how they're putting together a $100 million fund, UPS $100 million fund for diverse founders only. They are literally going out and going out of their way with these DEI and diversity inclusion departments. They're building them out. They're doubling the staff of them. They think it's important, and it is important to have more diversity at the board level, have more diversity at the executive level. They're running statistics on Silicon Valley companies that are run by diverse people per capita and seeing where they go based on non-diverse people. And the numbers are astounding. It's so cool to see if you let somebody diverse take their reins and let them do their thing, the sky is the limit. So I think that's really cool. And I do think it's the time right now.
So number one, thank you. Appreciate the plug for Forge. I think we definitely, our goal is always to just try to be the front door to help people, connect and find others who can help. I think, you gave a shout out to Startup Tucson. We definitely need to acknowledge them and all of the work that they do in the community and making those connections as well. I'm going to throw a quick plug in. So a week from today, we'll have not a fireside, but it's part of our Thursdays at Forge series. We'll have business funding opportunities through the Community Investment Corporation BIPOC loan program. And in fact, I noticed that Danny Nee, the executive director of CIC, is on the fireside today. This has been an amazing resource. I want to say that they've raised somewhere north of $400,000 to be able to, to support 0% interest, no collateral loans to BIPOC members of business owners of the community. And the best part is it's a completely community-based decision process. So, it's not Danny making the choice, not me making the choice. It's this community team that are evaluating each of those businesses, and then providing anywhere between $500 and $10,000 out to these business owners. Because you were talking about the funding story and getting to angel and venture capital. Wow, that's a long way. I think people underestimate how far you have to go to get there. You guys have been through the process of trying to, get in front of venture capital, and it's not an easy road. And the story or the value proposition you have to be able to tell, third-party logistics probably wasn't super sexy to a lot of venture capital investors. They didn't see that 10x return, and yet you had a very solid business that was frankly growing organically, you were turning down business, because it was just too large. So anyway, I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, they don't even know where to begin. And I think programs like the BIPOC Loan Fund that CIC is running is an outstanding resource. So plug for next week, those of you, 9 a.m., February 23rd, Danny will be talking about that program.
Danny's great.
I saw the U of A women's basketball team is wearing a shirt that says "Lifting as we climb," in celebrating Black History Month, and just thinking about some of the commentary that you were making. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on with PackDash, because there's definitely some news. And then can we tie that into your own mission, your own interest in sort of lifting as we climb, helping BIPOC entrepreneurs and your continued presence in Tucson?
Yeah. So Dave and I were approached middle of December by a group that we've worked with in the past that it's owned by a guy that was directly reporting to Jeff Bezos at Amazon. He's like an Amazon level 8, level 9 guy. And he left to start his own fulfillment network about 7 or 8 years ago. And they have 65 employees, 10 locations. They've got almost 1 million square feet. And we've partnered with them a few times. Like we've done some work in their Dallas, Fort Worth location, and we've learned a lot from them over time. And so we were sharing some of our stories with them middle of December, and the CEO, the owner, he was like, guys, the one area we struggle is business development growth, bringing on these clients and really getting what you guys have. Would you guys be open to some sort of acquisition, merger type deal? And Dave and I were kind of like, yeah, let's talk about it. So we basically went through our business with them. We talked about different clients. We talked about, the money they're bringing in, the revenue, all the stuff that's going on with them, the type of clients they are, how complicated their fulfillment schemes are, that kind of stuff. How many SKUs they have, all that. They did a ton of analytics on our business, and they basically were taking probably 80% of our clients, along with a little bit of our people, along with Dave and I, as not employees, but we're basically consultants to help them grow out their business development arm and help them anywhere from training salespeople, helping them write business scripts, helping them get more exposure. And so we worked out a deal with them where they're acquiring our business. And what's really cool is we've got we have an equity deal with them. We have a rev share deal with them. Dave and I have spent the last 2 months since December carefully moving each client over, whether it's physically. I've been more focused on the physical aspects in the warehouse. Dave's been more focused on the contract aspect. So part of our deal was we re-signed contracts under their umbrella. So now it's kind of like powered by them, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're basically getting rid of our fulfillment centers. We're winding them all down. I already closed Chicago. I'm winding down Tucson. Tucson will still be around for other services that we're still kind of figuring out at the moment. But I think what's interesting is, we're no longer pick, packing, and fulfilling as of last week. We got through the Shark Tank kind of explosion, and then we got them over to our partner. And so it's been, I think I explained the pallet thing, but before we got on live, I was talking about this, but I've been in Chicago for the last 3 weeks, closing down that warehouse and getting all of those clients over to our new partner. And so we got all of them over successfully. They've all moved in, they've begun fulfilling. We basically worked out deals where we were saving each client a substantial amount of money because we have a nationwide footprint, because we have a Seattle location, LA, Dallas, Fort Worth, Denver, there's a JFK, there's South Carolina, and growing. We can pick and choose where our clients go. We had clients that were in Arizona and Chicago that we're now putting just in Dallas because it saves them fulfillment costs, it saves them freight costs, it saves them inventory costs. So we're able to pass along anywhere from a 5 to 20% savings for almost every client just by partnering with this company and doing this acquisition. So it's really cool. And instead of me having to buy 1 million square feet of warehouse over the next couple of years, we have that kind of, we now have that backing, which is really, really exciting. So the next phase right now that Dave and I are in is a little bit of the phase down still, along with we're doing basically a 3-month retainer with them where we're basically arms of their sales team, and we're kind of managing a little bit of their sales team. So we're training on everything from how to sell to we're trying to put together like expos that they can go to, and scripts for email campaigns, and the way we reach out to people on LinkedIn, and even just listening to us on sales calls. Their whole sales team's been like shadowing on sales calls, contract negotiation calls, things like that. And we'll get off and talk about feedback, and they're like, oh, wow, you guys say this and say that. So it's been really cool to kind of have this partner and go through this whole thing. And it's been over the last 2.5 months. So it's been a very seamless transfer for most of our clients. We kind of got rid of a few of our non-profitable clients that were kind of, phased down. And then there were a few clients that they did not want to take on, which, because we have another partnership with a few other warehouses, Dave and I were actually able to get those clients to those warehouses. So we also worked out rev share with them and equity with them. So the most exciting part about this is that the company that acquired us, they are about to raise a massive private equity round that's being priced by some of the top banks right now. And we're feeling really, really good about that. And we get preferred stock, preferred equity. And we've worked out a really cool deal where the revenue that Dave and I are bringing in over the next year is what we're going to get from an equity perspective. So we worked out a really amazing deal. It's one of those deals that, there's not a ton of like cash up front, but I think it's really exciting to see where we're going to end up in the next couple of years with it.
And hopefully that also means your continued presence in Tucson, and even potentially ways that you guys can support the up and coming entrepreneurs. Within Forge Ahead, we have a very strong pay it forward model. That is why we do what we do, because we really believe in this idea that the time that we spend mentoring and helping people succeed is time well spent, because then when they succeed, they can give that back to the next group that are coming through. And I think that's maybe the part that excites me a lot about this is the fact that, you know, we're going to have you guys, you have deep roots here in Tucson and with the university, and your success is, I'll say your success is our success, in the sense that we've been rooting for you, and now we get to watch that happen and play out. There's a whole bunch of questions. We have less than 10 minutes, so I'm going to try to throw a few of these at you. One of the questions that was raised was, how did you approach the build versus buy and problem, and your philosophy with regard to that?
Yeah, I think Dave and I have a kind of a hybrid build versus buy. I think when it comes to anything physical, we're really scrappy. All the way from, you know, me negotiating our leases to be month to month or year to year, you know, at the really low rate, to me buying used racking off Facebook Marketplace and, you know, renting a Penske truck and picking it up from a church, you know, whatever it is. Like, I think there's a level of scrappiness that you got to maintain as an entrepreneur. So I think if you need to build it, you can, but, you know, the similar, you know, Uline shipping table example, right? Every warehouse I ever have been to has Uline shipping tables. I know they spent $1,600 on each one of those. I know I can build those for $45. You know, same with our kitting tables. Like, there was like $1,500 for a 4x8 kitting table that had adjustable height. I used to build them for $110 at Home Depot, you know, and so I think another example of buy, right? We had ShipStation for label printing. And we got to a point where after 3 or 4 clients, we couldn't separate invoices. So we were trying to like cheat ShipStation and have a really cheap fulfillment program and use Excel spreadsheets to use for our inventory management. We really needed to just buy a WMS, warehouse management software, that did all of that for us, which we ended up doing. So I think there's, you know, build versus buy. Another example, Notion, we use that for document management. Slack, we use that for communication. You know, a lot of people say that you could build your own apps and all that kind of stuff. What Dave and I did with a couple $100 of online no-code subscriptions with like Zapier and Slack and a couple automations that our team had built between the two was unbelievable. You know, QuickBooks talks to Zapier, talks to Notion, talks to, you know, we have custom forms that clients can fill out. So, I mean, you don't really need to build anything from ground up anymore. You can really no-code your way through almost the world. I talked to a $100 million founder that built his whole environment in Salesforce and then went public. So, I mean, non-proprietary software can go public. So yes, build versus buy.
I love this question too. How did you compete to recruit and train workers?
So Amazon, there was right down the street. Party City is right down the street. You know, I'm competing with all the biggest warehouses in Chicago. In Tucson, you know, we're outside of downtown, but we're not really in the industrial warehousing area. But I did compete against like UPS and Amazon also. We pay a little bit more. You know, in Tucson, we were paying 16 when the average warehouse worker is making 13 to 14. In Chicago, the going rate was about 17.50 to 18. We were paying 20. And I think on top of that, we have a lighter culture than the typical warehouse. A lot of Amazon employees that I would take, you know, they hated the micromanagement of Amazon. Has like AI. When you're like using your phone to check out something, it's literally grading you on how quickly you're going, like every minute by minute. And your screen will be green and then it'll be red. And then your manager will come out and talk to you if you get too many reds in one day. And like, they treat people like robots. And I think people were really tired of that, in at least where our warehouses were. So people were really excited to come to work and know they had some autonomy. They knew they could own a client or 2 or 3, know what their box design looked like, know what their tape looked like, and talk to them in Slack and have a little bit of ownership. So I think that was a little bit of what helped make PackDash special.
The last question I saw was kind of challenges related to Tucson, and I guess I'll ask it in the sense that, you know, Chicago's a big city. You guys had a lot of time established there. While you had gone to school here, did you, how did you find coming to Tucson and establishing business here, as far as the connections and the resources? Did you find any specific challenges in doing business from Tucson?
I've had a breezy time. Maybe it's more breezy than others, but I mean, getting our business licenses in Chicago is a week-long experience, going to multiple buildings, talking to multiple people. Something falls through the cracks, somebody doesn't send something over, it's really expensive. I was at City Hall in Tucson for half an hour, and I walked out with a huge smile on my face, and I was like, wow, that was really easy compared to what we had to deal with in Chicago. So I think you have stuff like that. And then, I think Tucson's network is it's different. I don't think it's better or worse. I think if you go to somewhere like Chicago, you've got more established startup networks. With that comes bureaucracy. With that comes ego, clout. You got the top guys in a program that don't really want to interface with the bottom guys in a program because the program has 500 people in it, right? Whereas in Tucson, you've got a 50-person program and you have more interaction. And I think there is something to be said about a smaller city with more focus, I guess, and less bureaucracy around getting things done. It depends on what you're talking about. It also depends on what kind of business you're doing. But, I think if you're somebody that wants to pick up the phone and get something done, there's not as many roadblocks in Tucson, in my opinion, if you're a hustler, right? I just think like getting any of that stuff done, like right now I have to renew our shared kitchen license in Chicago. It's going to be a nightmare. It's a nightmare thing that's keeping me up at night, just because I know it's going to be like a 2-week process. I'm going to probably have to fly there. I'm probably going to have somebody come to my kitchen, like, and inspect and do all that. And, I know that process in somewhere like Tucson is like a 1-day kind of thing, just because there's less bureaucracy that goes along with that. There's less sign-offs and checks and balances and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Okay, no, that's good to know, and I certainly I'll speak up for the Rio Nuevos and others of the world who would really like to see more businesses come to Tucson, and I think your stories like yours are the ones that they need to hear about, because that's really important. We are coming to the end of our hour together. I do want to give a quick plug again for all of the upcoming events that we've got going on. So anyone that is listening in or watching this, forge.arizona.edu/events. You can read about all of them. We'll have the link to this video will be there, as well as in 1 minute, we'll have Phoenix Outreach. So we love Tucson, and that's really where obviously our flagship is, but we also, Forge has presence up in Phoenix at the Bioscience Core in downtown Phoenix. And so we have a Phoenix Outreach event going on momentarily. We have an Idea Weekend coming up this weekend, which is really focused on kind of getting the creativity, the sustainability, the resiliency, thinking specifically about climate change. So something that I imagine probably germane to your college degree. And then, as mentioned, next week we'll have Danny Nee from Community Investment Corporation talk about the BIPOC loan program. So never a dull moment in the world of Forge. We keep the community going, and we try to make those connections, especially to people like yourself, Cam, who we just really appreciate all that you've done. We're proud to have you as a part of Forge community, and obviously looking forward to the next chapter of your success.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for being so supportive of us.
Outstanding. Thank you, everybody, for attending another Forge Fireside. We'll see you soon.